So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about the U.S. single-family housing starts.
Yeah.
The article here is that U.S. single-family housing starts fell in May. Here's the problem with that. That's the single-family housing starts, not just the shelter at large.
Right.
Last week, we had talked and we had a segment about the multi-unit permits really high up. So they're on the incline. Single-family housing start permitting is on the decline. So they are shifting as far as the ratio of number of multifamily units versus single-family units that have permits being pulled. I think a lot of this has to do with the cost of building and permitting, number one. Number two, I think this has to do with cash flow for the development side and the investment side. And it really would, it makes sense from the business perspective that you're like, well, gosh, if I'm going to have margins over here with multifamily and I can sell more units at the market rate right now, or I have to have less margin, or let's say less sales with not as much margin in single-family dwellings, then I'm going to lean towards a multi-unit. That just seems to be the way it's going.
And one of the things that I noticed, I feel that after 2020, when everything shut down, I feel people also want a place that has a lot more things, like a full community where it has like all your stuff, you literally like downstairs. And it also comes to the point where people, when everything closed, everybody wanted to get away from the cities and they wanted to stay away, get their house, like, oh, I don't want to live next to anybody. But then we realized that we as people need to be around other people because it's just, gives us life, gives us energy. It helps with your, with your mindset, with your mind well-being and all that. But at the same time, you start to realize, and I see a lot of different communities that are popping up, Millennia, over in Mission Valley, where they have basically everything. Yeah, that one's freaking that one's popular, and there's so much. When Will was sharing us that he went to go walk it, I'm like, where's that? Dude, like that's dope. It's like a little
awesome.
City.
It absolutely is.
It's like a little city. And to my point, that's what I feel. A lot of these communities that are multi-unit projects, it's like a little city that has everything within like a mile radius where you don't really have to go anywhere to get whatever you need, and it's all very accessible to you. And I feel that people a lot of times will trade accessibility and comfortability for paying it, being able to I'd rather be comfortable and taken care of, and I'll pay for that because it makes me feel good.
Yes, and I think some of this has to deal with the business side, which we were talking about a second ago. What am I going to build to make margins as a developer? And the other part is just culturally. I think what's happening is in some of the younger generations, they're like, this is how we want to live. It's how we're choosing to live, and it kind of makes sense. I went to school a long time ago, Brian. I was in college many years ago. I've been out for a long time now, but you know what? I lived in a dorm. And I lived on a campus, and on that campus, I had all the things I needed. In my dorm, I had all my friends. I wasn't married, I didn't have kids. So there's a lot of differences, of course.
Yeah.
And before everyone gets all hot in the collar in the comments, like not comparing dorm life for your personal living situation, but there's some similarities culturally where you're like, you know what, this is just how I'm going to choose to live right now. And then after I left college, I went to a big apartment complex off the 101 freeway in L.A., and it had 1,000 units?
Yeah.
I mean, it was like massive.
It's like a hotel.
It had its own gym. It has its own parking lots. It has its own office, its own maintenance crew. I mean, just it's the stuff we're talking about and all this multifamily stuff we're talking about on the show right now in this season of life.
Yeah.
And, I think the surprising thing in the data is that the single family home is harder and harder to get right now than it was a couple years ago. In the graph we showed last week on the multi-unit housing permits, they are the highest they've been in 30 years for consecutive years. So going all the way back to like 1980, I think, like 32 or 34 years of data, the most multifamily unit housing permits have been pulled since 2020. 2020, 21, 22, and 23. And there has not been any year that has had that many ever up until that point. And so this is a trend shift.
And I was just noticing, like how long could we keep going up for, Like it needs to come to a point where we stabilize. I don't foresee this crashing because of the fact that the data is telling you right there's not enough houses. But there does need to be some sort of stabilization. Yes,
but it means single family houses are going to hold their value still.
Oh, of course.
Because there's fewer of them. And this isn't pointed out in the article, but I'll see if you made the same observation I did. It says that data for April was revised higher to show the single family starts rising to a rate of 1.30 1.036 million, which means 1,036,000 units. But if you go to the very bottom of the article, it says permits for future construction of single-family homes fell to 949,000. So they actually are under a million for future construction, which means that the trend from the graph of the multi-unit family, the data in this article, and then the future construction is actually still going that way.
And they're telling us we're moving in this direction.
Yes.
This is what's working. And I feel that I don't know if it's working, but for them.
Whether it's working or not, it might be just part of economics. It's what people can afford to do. I can afford to do this in the multi-unit community, and I cannot do this on the single-family community. And if there's less if there's less numbers coming in the future, then that's going to secure housing prices.
Yeah.
So we're not necessarily. I'd say you might see that there's some solving happening in the market. It's just not with SFRs.
Yeah.
It's with multi-unit, not with SFRs. So
Yeah.
SFR prices are probably going to continue to hold, and we're going to continue seeing the multi, because again, the inventory is not absorbed. The demand for inventory is certainly not showing up in the market. So there's going to have to be a higher concentration or higher volume of units, a higher volume of new doors created in order to absorb all the demand we have in the market.
Yeah.
It's just not going to be SFRs. So last thought on that. Anything else? No, that's it.